Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my show. Today, we're going to go into the Parts Monthly Report. As I mentioned in a blog, I'm going to be doing every now and then a little of the reports that I used to make my department profitable, ongoing, and to ensure that I carried out my duties in the best way possible. For my podcast listeners, I think that it is important for you to watch this video so you can understand exactly what takes place within the parts department. So the full episode will be on my YouTube channel. But before we begin, please check out my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide, Proven Strategies Used to Maximize Sales and Process Improvement. The links are below in the description box. So, what is the monthly parts report? The monthly parts report is a snapshot of your performance as a parts manager. This is just one of the tools I use in order to ensure that I'm doing the right things in the parts department, carrying out the strategies and the action plan as set out by the managing director. And it depends on the dealership that you're working with as well. They will set the targets and the goals, and they want to ensure that you are adhering to the plans and the strategies as set out by the company itself. Now, I'm going to go a little bit in detail with this parts monthly report. However, I don't want to stay too long on it. For a lot of the parts managers out there, you can actually use some of these items. Well, these are the general items that I use, not necessarily the ones that you may use. But of course, we share notes, we share ideas, and we want to ensure that everyone is on the same path because we want to be successful in everything that we're carrying out. It may be a little bit different where you are. However, it is always important for best practices and benchmarking. I emphasize a lot on best practices, and these figures are the ones that will ensure that your department and the dealership overall is doing quite well. Now, the first thing off here is in the very first column is the turnover, your sales, and it is based in certain categories. You have your retail / wholesale, internal, workshop, warranty. If you are working with other brands, as you know, some dealerships have multiple brands. They sell multiple different items within their shop itself, within their warehouse. Of course, you have your cost of sales, your gross profit in dollars, and your gross profit in percentage. It is always important, and I will not only emphasize the importance of knowing your figures offhand. So you have your actual and you have your budgeted figures, your month to date and your year to date actual figures. So here, total that is being shown here for the month in comparison to last year's total. Then you also have a column for your variance. The variance is the percentage that you will know and you will be able to track to know that exactly you're on the right path. And then you track last year's performance as relates to this year's performance, because when you're preparing that budget, you want to ensure that you're progressing in the right direction, progressing positively instead of negatively, and then you can track your growth from percentage wise as well as dollar wise, because every dealership would always want to better their performance over last year. Okay, so here we have last year results, this year results. The actual is 16 for retail and wholesale. The actual results, for instance, was 16,340,000. Last year results was 13,950,000. And of course, the percentage of sales here in the middle that I have, retail and wholesale account for 49% of your total sales, which is where you want to go in some aspects of it, right? However, in certain markets, their internal sales is far more important than your external sales. In North America here, we emphasize on workshop sales. In other regions of the world, the emphasis is over the counter because they have a lot more customers outside in terms of wholesale and jobbers and other garages who will purchase parts from the dealerships. It is very important for you to understand exactly where your sales are, what your cost of sales is. Cost of sales should always be lower than your actual sales figure, because this is where you calculate your gross profit margin and your gross profit percentage. And at the end of the day, this report is used to appraise yourself, appraise your performance, appraise the performance of the department itself, and then you can sit with your managing director and you negotiate where how many of that profit you should be taking home, and if there's a raise in salary, that depends on it. Okay, other emphasis you want to understand and know at all times is your stock months. That should be paramount. You don't want to be carrying too much stock. So here I have the total for your for the stock months is 5.2 as against to the year to date, and your target, you should always be emphasizing lowering your stock months, because a higher stock months means you have a high inventory cost, and you don't want to have parts sitting down on the shelf that is actually not moving. As compared to last year, the last year should be higher than this year, unless there's a abnormal order that came in and it bumped up your stock months so much so, and that the parts are not ready to go, or that customer is taking those parts little by little. A perfect example of this is if you're doing pickup trucks and the sales department got a huge fleet order for pickup trucks, and of course you want to sell bed liners, and then you go ahead and you pre-order the bed liners like 20 or 30 or up to 100. Once those bed liners arrive, then it's going to push up your cost of sales here, and it's going to push up your stock months as usual. But once you have a firm order for them, then actually it will reduce and go back to normal, and then you'll have your average stock months going out. So that is one of the aspects of it. Okay, another thing you will need to take into consideration is your debtors days. Again, different dealerships, different regions, it varies. These are not actual figures, but some things that I plugged in. So for example, this debtors day here is showing 34 months. The target is 30 months, 30 days within a year, 30 days within a month in which you want to always establish. And then the total amount of debtors out there that owes the department money, actually owes the company money, $3.8 million. That's just a made up figure, of course, but you want to ensure that you have your accounts receivable listing on hand at all times. Keep in touch with your debtors. Work along with the account department, whether you have account receivable clerk that will ensure calling these debtors to ensure that the account stays in. And one of the ways to track these debtors, of course, every time these customers come to your front counter and they want a part, you bring their account up. The dealer management system will actually show if they're in good standing. It will show what their credit balances are. It will show how much they have spent so far. It will also show the payments that have been made and whether or not their account is in the clear, so you can actually issue that part to that customer. So it is very important for you as a parts manager to know these figures and keep it as low as possible. Another thing to track right here is your lost sales. And I have your registered items as compared to your non-registered items. Registered items are items already inside your DMS, your dealer management system, that is readily available with all the information and price and the availability and all that. For non-registered item, this goes for those dealerships that deal with gray imports. In certain regions, you have a huge used car market that the government set regulations that allow small dealers or individuals to import cars from anywhere in the world, and then from time to time they will go to the local dealer to ask for certain parts, and those parts are not available from them. Of course, you also have a master listing that is sent by the manufacturer to the dealership, and that master listing is updated every single month. What that master listing does, it will take out those part numbers that are no longer in use, or for parts that are no longer in manufacturing, no longer available, or parts discontinued. You will see that from time to time. And also it adds new parts every time there is a modification of the part, if there's a update in the feature of the car, and also if there is any warranty procedures that they want, warranty significance that they want to add in terms of adjustment or improvement of a particular part, then that part is also added to the master listing. And of course, new model cars are added to the parts master listing. If that part is not registered in the system, then you can also add it and to pull the information from the parts master listing, and then that is calculated here. Also, another way of doing this is having the parts advisors record these manually. You give them sheets, whatever isn't there, they record it manually, and they record the amount that was lost. Of course, the lost sales system, it depends on your dealer management system, of course, that it'll also be recorded. So a lot of this is done manually, but it is important for you to know exactly how much sales you are losing. Okay, the next thing you need to understand is your supply rate. Supply rate goes along with the allocation fill rate, I believe. and it will tell you exactly how is it that you're doing in terms of your horizontal fill rate and your vertical fill rate. The horizontal fill rate, for instance, let me give you an example. It is how many of a particular item you supply. If the service department comes and they want 5 liters of oil to do an oil change, you only have 4, then that's a 90% fill rate right there horizontally. However, if the service department come with a workshop order or an RO and it has 10 items on it, and you're only able to fill 80% of that total work order itself, then you have 80% fill rate right there. And these are used to ensure to measure how much you're able to service your customers. But you have allocation fill rate or your registered and fill rate for over the counter, and then you also have one for the rear counter for the workshop, and then you combine both of them. Overall, you're looking at a 96% fill rate, which is good. But people always, and I mean always, complain about the 4 or the 3% that you don't have. Then you go to your stock order ratio, which is the way how you order your parts. Some do daily stock orders, some do weekly stock orders, some do a monthly stock order. Again, every region around the world is different, so you will know exactly how much of your stock is being allocated to you from the manufacturer. So most of your stock that is done on a weekly or a daily basis. Here I have 84%. You have your year to date, you have your target, and then you compare to it last year, how it is done. Okay? And then how much of your stock orders are VOR or air freight or which you buy locally. So you'll always want to improve your regular stock order, because 84% or over 90% of this will come directly from your manufacturer, and it means that you will keep 100% of your profits, unless you're one of those large big box stores that gives out a lot of discounts. And also, if you're a wholesale dealer, then the guys who work directly on commission, they're allowed to give out a certain amount of discount as set out by the policies of the parts department itself, and sometimes the manager will set those criteria. Okay, so these are just some of the items that I used in terms of measuring my parts department, measuring the goals, and ensure that things were being kept up to date. And of course, whenever anyone comes to you and they want to challenge you in anything, this is the actual sheet that you will present to both your manufacturers, your general manager, the dealer principal, anyone at all. And then you can use these figures, you put it up on your notice board inside the parts department so that the staff can understand exactly what is going on. You use it for training. They'll have a general idea of what their performance is all about, because this form right here tells the pulse of the parts department itself. But enough blabbering about me. Tell me, what do you think? And if you want a copy of this sheet, you can email me directly at partsmanagerpro@gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to send you a copy. And also, if there's anything else that you want to add within this sheet to keep within this report to keep abreast of what your department is all about, then feel free to hit me up, tell me what you think, and then let us compare notes. Feel free to leave your comments, and remember to grab a copy of my book, The Parts Manager Guide. The links are below. Until next time, please smash that like button on your way out and tell me what you think.